Quick story time of how my parents found my OnlyFans. So I had just recently broken up with my boyfriend and my friends were trying to find ways to make me feel better. They were trying to tell me to go on Tinder and all these other dating apps to find a new man. I didn't want to find a new man more than I wanted to make him jealous. And so my friends were telling me a good way to get back at him is to post myself with another man. But I had a better idea. I was going to make an OnlyFans and I was going to tell his friends about it and let them subscribe for free. And it did work. He sent me a big paragraph going off on me about it. I thought it was really funny, but anyways. So I had left one night with my friends, you know, they were just trying to take me out to make me feel a little bit better, just to try to make me feel better and get the recent breakup off my head. And I was living at home at the time. I had just turned 18. My parents were really strict and they didn't even know that I had a boyfriend. So while I'm out with my friends, I get a text message from my mom telling me to get home now. I'm asking her what's going on and she's telling me that I just need to get home because we need to talk. And so once I get home, I open the front door. I walk into the living room and my ass was spread open right on the TV screen. So this is gonna be part 2 of how my parents found my OnlyFans. So I get home from hanging out with my friends and I see my OnlyFans on the TV screen. My mom is acting like she just saw the Holy Ghost. My dad is shaking his head, just mad disappointed. For some reason, my little brother was sitting over there on the couch. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? What is this? Why would you put it on the TV? Our TV was a smart touch screen TV and you could connect your phone to the TV, but I didn't understand why it was on the TV screen with my little brother right there. My mom's yelling at me like, so is this what we are? Is this what we do? She's telling me if I'm going to be acting grown, then I'm gonna have to find a different place to stay because I'm not about to represent our family like this. So I told her that it was just a quick way for me to make money and she told me that I was lying. And then she proceeded to show me a text message that she got from my boyfriend telling her that I had let his friends subscribe for free and that I was going down the deep end and I need to be talked to. I don't know if I said ex-boyfriend or not, but it was my ex-boyfriend who had sent her that text. So I told him that I would delete my OnlyFans and this is what I said to my ex-boyfriend like for part 3. So this is going to be part 3 of how my parents found my OnlyFans. So it was my ex-boyfriend who had told my parents about my OnlyFans. So I decided that I was going to message him. I basically went off on him and I told him, why the fuck would you show my parents my OnlyFans? Why did you feel the need to do that? You're just jealous, yada, yada, yada. And he told me that it's because he doesn't want me to represent myself that way. But I know it's more of the fact that his friends were subscribed to me and he wanted me to just take it down. And I told him that we weren't in a relationship anymore, so his opinion didn't matter. I removed him off everything and he still found ways to text me. He even eventually started to email me. And now he was telling me that he missed me and that he wanted another chance. And I'm like, dude, no, you almost got me kicked out. From that point on, my parents never helped me out with anything ever again. I had to start paying everything by myself. And throughout the relationship with my boyfriend, he would basically do everything for me. And so I decided to get back with him. Eventually, he got his own apartment. And so I moved out of my parents' house and moved in with him. And then me and him made an OnlyFans together. My parents found out about that too, but there was nothing that. This is the story of how I lost my virginity at my college campus. And it was one of my professors that took my virginity. And this professor had a wife. Let's get right into it. This happened my freshman year in college, okay? A bitch just got there. If I'm being 100% honest, I never wanted to do the nasty because I was trying to save it for somebody special. After I graduated, baby, it was time for me to act up. And I most definitely acted up. Shit. So freshman year of college comes around. The first day of school and I walk into English class. I see this fine, sexy, tall glass of water. See this man sitting at this desk in the front of the classroom. This man was Liam Hemsworth on crack. This is Liam Hemsworth. Bitch, do the math. Class starts and he introduces himself as the professor. Like, really? I wanted this man to rail me. Anyways, as time went on, this professor and I began to become really close. Maybe a little too close. He would ask me to stay after class and we would literally just talk. It became a regular thing. We got so close that we exchanged phone numbers. So close to the point where one night he called me and invited me to his house. This is gonna be part 2 of how I lost my virginity to my college professor who was married. So like I said, he calls me one night and invites me to his house. He said we were getting along really well and that he never did this to any of his other students, but since me and him created such a special bond that I was an exception. So I was like, your fine ass, sir, I will speed. Let me grab my keys. He gives me the address, I show up and he lets me in. We sit down and we just start talking about anything. He shows me around his house eventually. As he's showing me around his house, we get to some pictures on the wall. That's when I found out that he had a wife. Immediately no. Nothing else happened and I made an excuse to go home. He texts me and says that it sucks that I had to go home. He wishes we could have spent more time together. I told him that was most likely the last time we were going to spend together since he had a wife. Because I did give a fuck. At the moment. But things changed. Finding out he was married made me so uncomfortable that I stopped answering his calls and I stopped replying to his texts. I also skipped that class for a little bit because I just felt so awkward. One day the professor sends out an email saying that there was a mandatory meeting after school. I go to that meeting, but when I show up, me and my professor are the only people there. Like for part 3. It's gonna be part 4 of the time I lost my virginity by my college professor who was married. Like I said, me and my professor started taking pictures and taking videos whenever we would hook up. That would lead to our downfall. Mind you, he was the one who asked to start taking those pictures and recording those videos because he wanted it sit for when I wasn't around. We were doing all this and we were still walking by each other in class like nothing happened. Well, one day I'm sitting in his class as usual. Just a normal regular day. I never would have thought anything like this would have happened. But I guess it's my karma. We're sitting in class and we're learning about whatever the hell. We were going over some notes that a student had asked to go over because they didn't understand, but the professor was having a hard time trying to pull up these notes. His computer screen was connected to the big screen that all the students could see. I don't know what it's called, a smart board? Some electronic screen. It's a projector. I googled it. His computer screen is on the projector and he's opening up a bunch of documents and files. And next thing you know, he clicks a file and all the pictures and videos of me and the professor naked together shows up on the screen in front of everyone. This is going to be part 5 of the time I lost my virginity to my college professor who was married. Like I said, the professor clicks on the wrong file on his computer. All the pictures and videos of me and him hooking up showed up on the screen in front of the whole entire class. I'm sitting there like, I don't know who that is. That ain't me. It might look like me, but it ain't me. The entire class gasped all at once. It was like a harmony. And some students who sat next to me started to look at me. Like I said, I don't know who that girl that looks exactly like me on the screen is. I don't know who she is. Don't associate me with her. I don't know her. The professor's face goes red. He was frantically trying to take it off the screen. Like, it's too late. I put my hoodie up and I didn't know if I should leave the classroom or just stay in the classroom because not everybody realized that it was me. Like, some people in college don't pay attention to who's in their class. But the people that sat next to me knew that it was me. I didn't know if I should have stayed in class or if I should have left the classroom, because if I left the classroom it would have looked guilty, but if I stayed in there it was just awkward. I decided to stay to avoid looking guilty. Once class was over and I went home, the entire school knew about me and the professor. It's gonna be part 6 of the time I lost my virginity to my college professor who was married. So like I said, I sat through the rest of the class after those pictures and videos were shown. It just would have been way more awkward if I just walked out right away. Like, it's already awkward. Let's try to avoid the awkwardness as much as we can right now. By the time I got home, everybody knew about me and the professor. Everybody at school was talking about it. What's worse is that somebody took a picture of the screen. That was evidence, and someone sent that to his wife. A lot of people were asking me about what happened, but I didn't tell them anything because I didn't have any friends at that school and nobody deserved to know my business. I had not been in contact with the professor ever since. He had blocked my number and I tried to email him, but he wasn't answering my emails. He also stopped holding class the day after that happened. But one day he did email me back. He said from there on out to stop contacting him, and so I did. The school kind of swept everything under the rug. He did in fact get fired. The school said that if anybody reposted that picture of the screen, they would get expelled. I dropped out of college. It was definitely not worth it. So here's just a little reminder to never sleep with your college professor.
When I was 24, me and my sister moved into an apartment together. At the time, I was going to college to get my master's, and she was going in to get her degree. The rent was $500 a month. I know, cheap. We only paid $250 each. But the neighborhood was bad. There was a lot of crackhead, gangs. There was a shooting just about every week. I know, just crazy. Anyways, one day in the middle of the night, we get a hard banging on our door, and it's a lady calling out for help. When I opened it, she had a black eye, she was bruised up, and her forehead was bleeding. I asked what's going on, and she replied her boyfriend is trying to kick her and her kids out of their place. She explained she has a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old, and her boyfriend is throwing all of their things out. So I walked over back to her apartment, which was 2 floors down. When we finally reached the apartment, the whole apartment was on fire. She screamed and said her babies were in there. Come back for part 2. This is part 2 of how my neighbor's boyfriend set her apartment on fire with her children inside. If you didn't watch part 1, go watch that so you can understand this part. So, like I said, the apartment was on fire and she was screaming about her kids. And she tried to run in and get her kids, but I stopped her because there was no way she and her kids were going to make it out alive. Few seconds later, her boyfriend walks up and says, "Let her go." And she runs over to him and swings on him a couple times and says, "What did you do? Get them out." And he replied, "I told you to leave, right?" She falls to her knees, and at that point, she just stops crying. So I run upstairs calling for help, telling everyone to get out and call the fire department. The fire starts to quickly spread, and everyone is coming out of their apartments. When I went back to the area where the lady was, her boyfriend disappeared, and I picked her up from off the ground. I brung her into the parking lot where everyone else was. After 20 minutes, the fire department finally shows up. Come back for part 3. This is part 3 of how my neighbor's boyfriend set her apartment on fire with her children inside. So, like I said, the fire department finally shows up after 20 minutes. I told them there were kids inside, and they went up to find them. They put the fire out. Right after, a firefighter came up to me and said there was no one in there, and I told him no, there were 2 kids. A couple minutes later, a few detectives and cops came up to me and asked me a few questions about the scene. asking things like if I know who started it and about my neighbors. Couple minutes later, there was an old man, which I found out was one of my neighbors. He came from the side of the apartment complex screaming that there was a little boy on his back lying on the ground saying that he couldn't move. So quickly, the detective go over to where my neighbor said the boy was. I'm running out of time. Part 4 will be up soon. This is part 4 of how my neighbor's boyfriend set her apartment on fire with her children inside. After one of my neighbors claimed they saw a little boy on the ground in the back of the apartment complex, and the boy's arm was pillows wrapped up in a comforter. When the detective got the paramedics to pick the boy up, they took the comforter he had and they opened it, and inside was a baby. After the whole situation was over, they took me in for questioning. Also, by the way, they admitted the lady into the hospital as well because she was bruised up really bad, and anytime anyone asked her anything, she was mute. During my time in the police station, they told me about the little boy. Come to find out, that little boy on the ground in back of the apartment complex was her son. They said he wrapped his baby sister up to protect her from getting hurt. Baby girl was fine. The pillows he wrapped her in softened her fall. But for the little boy, he was paralyzed